It does appear at the moment 30 Korn and Saiyajin God will be sitting on the bench. That is their support player or their support sub and a DPS sub. Xavier Esports have actually been one of the better GOATS composition teams we've seen in Contenders Pacific so far. GOATS being the triple tank, triple support. We'll see if Paddy Pan is going to stay on the Widow as well. It does appear so. So not quite going to be the GOATS, but it is going to be double sniper.
Yeah, and obviously the GOATS is a newer composition coming out here, so if they're good at it this season, they're probably going to be better than the other team, right? Because it's not like you've had a whole host of experience before with this.
What I do also want to say is we talked a little bit about Macau, but Mui's actually going to step up to the plate for this opening match of the evening for Hong Kong Attitude. The coach of the team, the sub of the team, one of the old guard of Hong Kong Attitude. Let's see what he can do, because Hong Kong Attitude right now opening up first blood on Queen.
Yep, they managed to get position on the point there, Hong Kong Attitude, and that pays off with a really big dividend. Obviously, we see they're stuck on the Lucio. Oftentimes, teams will, they'll start off with a Lucio and then just swap off it as they give them the initial speed boost and then, get onto the Mercy. But if you maintain that Lucio, it just gives you the positional advantage. And you see, Xavier Esports are unable to push into the point through those choke points there.
And it seemed like Xavier Esports stayed around a little bit too long as well, allowed Hong Kong Attitude to pick up those extra 5 kills after Queen had already gone down. Queen then respawns, no members to work with, has to wait for the rest of that team, and Xavier now 30% behind in progress, still looking for opportunity to push in, and Queen caught out again. Queen will go down again. Hong Kong Attitude yet again at a 6v5.
So now that they've stuck with the Lucio, I guess the question here is, Avril, is this a chance for Xavier to come back in? Are they at a disadvantage now because they don't have that Mercy on their side? We're seeing a rally coming out for Hong Kong Attitude here. Shylin will pop that nice and early to make sure everyone is getting maximum armor from it.
Questionable res coming out on Olivier as well. They ended up waiting long enough that he would have spawned. But now with Tay onto Lucio, they're looking to speed out of these gates. Transcendence popped by Mango Jai. Hong Kong Attitude not too keen to allow them to escape. And a pin as well into a Ting. Queen's going to carry him across the map, but not going to do too much, as Queen is going to be the first casualty once again for Xavier Esports. But at least this time there is a response trade. There's now 2 response trade. 4 versus 4. 1 res coming in. Queen comes back in for Xavier Esports. Suddenly they have the ults to play with as well. Suddenly the grab is online and the Earth Shatter still available.
Yeah, Ting just losing himself in that fight, and Xavier Esports, they don't let him get away with it. They are going to flip the point over now, despite Mui and Mango Jai getting a couple of return kills, but they're going to have to deal with this Graviton Surge if they want to get onto the point. They use the sound barrier to try and counteract it, and it does seem to be keeping most of them healthy. On the back of that, CQB and Mango Jai, a host of kills here coming in for Hong Kong Attitude.
Well, it's done more than a kill, keep them happy right there. They keep them healthy as well. Managed to get themselves a ton of kills. Queen's Earth Shatter doesn't seem to have done anything against Hong Kong Attitude. They all managed to stay up. They all managed to get the return trains. Xavier Esports are starting to look like they're running out of ideas, because they're certainly running out of progress, running out of time right now, not getting enough picks, and they're not anywhere near that cap. Hong Kong Attitude now Shylin with a double kill. Now they just got to walk back into this cap, collect the last couple of kills, and Xavier Esports sneakily capped that through.
Yeah, I guess to be fair, half of them were nowhere near the point. The other half were doing a tricky little back cap, but unfortunately, if you play 2 rounds of 6v3, it's not going to go in your favor in the end.
The only part of the good news here for Queen and Xavier was he at least blocked the Ting's Earth Shatter, but that may be all he gets in this final leg of Lijiang Tower Night Market. No other members now seemingly alive for Xavier Esports to come in. The final member could be Tay. Perhaps can get something on self-destruct, going to get nothing. Doesn't even get back to his own mech. Dreamer gets pushed away by CQB, and eventually Hong Kong Attitude do secure that Night Market. But,
must have used the fade earlier to try and get towards the point, can't even.
Well, I mean, to take a little bit of convincing there, and Xavier with the sneaky back cap. But look, one point you brought up here, Xavier Esports, because they had to split their team to make that back cap happen, they basically played 2 rounds of 6v3, and that's not going to win for them. That's not going to allow them to have a sustained victory against Hong Kong Attitude. So, somewhat inevitable that by that time, Hong Kong Attitude found those 2 6v3 fights, they were going to cap out.
Yeah, unless you've got some kind of blank level confidence where you just keep streaming in, maybe they'd have a chance.
Confidence can only get you so far.
Yeah.
You also got to get the kills, and that's something Xavier weren't getting.
It doesn't often make up for 3 lost members on your team, does it? So we do see Xavier Esports this time. They're going to be the ones sticking on the Lucio.
This is that GOATS composition from Xavier that we're talking about. 3 support, 3 tanks, taking the fight directly to Hong Kong Attitude, who've actually backed out right now. They spot that GOATS and they decide, Not going to have a bar of this, not going to allow them to just aggress into us. Now that Tay's already used the speed boost on Hong Kong Attitude, they consider coming back in slower.
This is interesting though. They don't decide to hold at the choke. I think maybe the Reinhardt shield was a little too low, so they pull back to the point, and as a result, they've given up a little bit of ground and a couple of kills.
Well, that thing is, Xavier Esports also can't play the choke. Hong Kong Attitude have much better poke, which means for Xavier Esports, if they sit at the choke, both Mui and Shailin will out-damage them significantly. The shield from Queen will go down, so Hong Kong Attitude smartly pull backwards, allow Xavier to then also consider, well, we can't stay here, and as Xavier fall back, HKA get their first pick, and now HKA in control. Yeah,
and I think they got caught on the back foot there. Sure, you can't get into poke damage, but you've got to go in again as soon as you can. You see Hong Kong Attitude right now, 10-10 getting full charge here, and this is going to force Xavier Esports back. They don't want to be anywhere near this Xayah when she's putting out that much damage.
Well, 10 times 10 is 100, which is exactly how much energy he just had there. Xavier Esports, they know the danger, and Hong Kong Attitude now working up towards those ultimates. Nearly onto some important ones, especially looking at the tanks, but looking over the Xavier side, they've actually done a better job of charging so far. And out comes that Coalescence, responded to by CQB's Valkyrie into the air as well. Deadeye to follow. And Olivier down with the Graviton Surge, already losing Tay to Mui's Deadeye though. So far one response for Hong Kong, no responses from Xavier. And Xavier have committed 2 ultimates. Queen went down with Earth Shatter, and now they're not going to have the response they want.
No, they didn't get enough damage onto the Reinhardt shield early enough, and of course Mango Jai did have the Transcendence as well. Those 2 defensive measures were enough to spell the end of that fight, essentially, for Xavier Esports, who have been sent back to spawn. They still haven't got control of the cap, well, at least while it was active.
That's the grab now, incoming Dragon as well. The combo is complete. A flashbang will even pick up a kill from Mui. And that'll be more than enough. Xavier Esports definitely do not want to commit into this fight. No Cyber used, no reason to use it, no rally used as well. Again, no reason to use that. That is a late kill to THK as well. A stagger that Xavier will unlikely be able to afford to wait for.
THK running over the heads of the Hong Kong Attitude players there. They're happy to let her have a little play around. It doesn't bother them at all as they get up to 90%. And with a Ting, with the Earth Shatter, he's probably lying in wait somewhere here.
Mui's lying in wait and he catches himself a padded pan, but THK finally opening up the fight for Xavier Esports. They're definitely at player advantage now. 2 kills going their way, finds themselves a 3rd, gives away Dreamer. And that's a bit of a tricky one because he had the Coalescence that could be costly for Xavier, but for now, they will hold on. For now, they will cap.
Oh, and a very late trance there from Mango Jai. It really felt like the fight was already over. As soon as those 2 self-destruct kills came in, it was always going to be a hard task then on for Hong Kong Attitude to win the fight. And they seemed to get a little too split there when Xavier Esports came in. They came in multiple directions and they let themselves get split up with it, not shot calling well enough.
Hong Kong Attitude have some time to work with, but they're looking for space as well. Valkyrie pop now means they definitely want to go in. Shailin didn't get anything with the Dragon Strike, but does get a kill into Paddy Pan anyway. You'll take that. Xavier Esports looking for responses right now. The Coalescence now this time used by Dreamer, but again, no kills off that one. Olivier, he has to be able to use this grab. If he dies, it will be all over. Xavier cannot afford to lose a team fight because Hong Kong are at 99%. Xavier have to get in now. Something has to happen. Grab comes down, but only a couple members. And it's Xavier actually losing their members as the grab was active, and with that, Hong Kong Attitude should be able to clean that one up. 2-0 on Lijiang Tower.
Olivier needed to pull that out much earlier there. That was the 2nd time, really, that he had quite a poorly timed Graviton Surge on Control Center.
And it'll cost you, right? And that's the unfortunate thing for Xavier Esports, not able to find the initiation that they're looking for. You also don't want to have to waste a Graviton Surge and not get the value out of it, which is an unfortunate thing to have happen to you, but at the same time, the kind of position where Hong Kong Attitude are about to cap that point. They're at 99%, and the groundwork done there, the foundation set by Hong Kong Attitude, meaning that you can pressure Xavier out, put Xavier on the back foot, and suddenly Xavier have to decide, do we go in or do we not go in? We're already losing members. There's not a lot you can do. Hong Kong Attitude, smart plays, well controlled, 1-0.
He seemed to be maintaining the charge well, but obviously just, not able to coordinate and either destroy the shields enough. He didn't pressure the the Zenyatta enough. There were a couple of options where you can really maximize the value of your Graviton Surge, and if you can check any of those boxes off before you throw it out, it becomes just a much more effective ultimate. And none of the times that he used it, we saw any of those happen.
Let's be clear though, Control Center was a much better round of Lijiang Tower than Night Market was for Xavier Esports. So Night Market was basically all Hong Kong attitude. We had at one stage a pretty severe spawn camp CQB as a Lucio player, picked himself 2 kills during that. Queen had consistently been picked out early, consistently been caught out alone. The rest of his team nowhere to be found. And that first penultimate fight where he went down and the other 5 members of Xavier couldn't fall back in time, couldn't decide how they wanted to play the fight, and all 5 of them got cleaned up by Hong Kong attitude as well. So for Xavier Esports, the discipline not quite there for them in the early stages. Again, we did see some more success in Control Center, but not enough success to get them a map win.
Yeah, what I found very interesting was that first fight where we saw the Goats come out, the Goats comp come out on Control Center there, and then they just, they went way too far forward, couldn't pull back in time, and they just got wrapped on, right? Like, you need to ambush them, essentially, with the Goats composition.
Kings Row coming up next. We also have to consider right now that for Xavier Esports, they probably made the right play here. In fact, I'm going to say they made the right type of play. They wanted to push in, but it was all on Hong Kong attitude. They fell back enough. They kind of baited Xavier in a sense. Xavier could have essentially chosen to go back to the point a little bit quicker, I'll admit, like you said. But Hong Kong attitude just outsmarted them, plain and simple.
Well, Kings Row will be the next map here. I think this will be an interesting clash of strategies between these two teams. Obviously, it plays out a little bit differently when you've got predetermined attack and defense side. Unlike Control, you're not fighting for that initial space. The Mercy versus Lucio issue isn't quite so prominent there. So I doubt we will see the Lucio come back here unless they go full Goats, but does look like we're going to have 2 healers on the defense at the very least. 3, sorry.
Well, quick substitution note coming in here for Xavier Esports. Corn is officially in. Dreamer now onto the bench instead. And Xavier, much like EXL Esports and Group A, are a team that very much like to utilize all 8 of their members. If they have subs, you're likely to see all their subs get played. And Mui's actually going to still be on for Hong Kong attitude right now. So the veteran, again, the old guard for the team, picking up his pieces, picking up his weapons, his guns, and he's got to play.
Yep, he's been a great hit scan character in seasons past, and it looks like he's going to continue applying his trade in that way. Paddy Pan coming in here, just looking for a head, an errant one poking over that Orisa shield, but he won't find it.
Ting is in a bit of a weird spot. You can see he's taking a lot of damage right now. Mui waiting in the side, but he's got to act, and he has got himself a kill to Paddy Pan. However, Hong Kong attitude, the rest of their team has been mostly pushed off the point. That is a pretty, I guess, a pretty bad thing for Hong Kong attitude, considering right now that Xavier Esports have control. 2 ticks so far. Earthshatter coming down from Queen is going to secure the rest of this point. A Ting lived through that. CQB lived through that, but not anymore. Not living long enough to do anything significant to stop Xavier.
Yeah, so Moe hides off the side there, and it just felt like he gave up far too much poke damage there. I mean, he waited, he got the kill, sure, but by that time his team had already lost all of their positioning on the fight. I'm sure there were a lot of cooldowns they had to blow just to try and keep themselves alive, to move away from the point, use any kind of healing they had, and it was just too late by then.
You can see how pressured Ting was in the early stages of that as well. He couldn't quite back up quickly enough, and Xavier Esports a very decisive team. You can say a lot about them, where the mistakes were, but what you can't fault them for is the fact that they know when to press that go button, sometimes to their detriment, but right now it is working out. Mui has a flank again. In fact, there's a lot of flanks on for Hong Kong. Headed to Shailin though. Not going to be on the good end of that flank, unfortunately for him. Ting does get a kill back, but right now Mui's got to be the one to make it work. Deadeye came out. Deadeye does not find any kills, and suddenly Hong Kong attitude are finding themselves again in a very difficult spot on Kings Row. And for Xavier Esports, barely had to commit there, use the coalescence, and everything else looks pretty healthy.
Yeah, if you're going to go for those really long flanks like Mui is, you really need to be able to take those 1v1s. You've got to get some confirmed kills there, and he's just really not doing that sort of job on the back lines. He's now going to switch over to the Tracer, and they're going to go for a dive to try and contest this point, but it's going to be very tough when they don't have the Genji. They actually have to give it up.
And the timing on that was so good from Pattypan because he got that kill just as Xavier about to cap. Hong Kong Attitude paused, they hesitated for a brief moment that allowed Xavier to complete that B cap, and now for Hong Kong Attitude already sitting on to C. Pattypan, another headshot. This one not going to be rezzed up by CQP. Instead, though, the Valk will come out. THK will respond. He's got the blade ready to go, but he's looking for kills. We'll get one D-Mech, but one D-Mech might not be quite enough unless Hong Kong Attitude fail to also get some kills of their own. Right now, Xavier Esports have a pretty good spawn distance. Right now, Hong Kong Attitude have two players at Ting and CQB in a very, very precarious situation. In a very, very weird spot. So far away from the point, so far away from the defense. And THK is all too happy to clean up these kills. Xavier, though, still continuing to push while that's happening.
So much confidence in himself there. No healers with him, but THK is still happy to go in there and pick up those staggers. They're just so split from the rest of their team, Hong Kong Attitude, and at least they've got a Dragon Blade here to go in on the next fight.
We'll see how Shailin does. They get healed at the end of that. 30 core going down. Should be making Shailin's job somewhat easier. The lack of healing coming through for the Xavier side, and now a lack of just about everything. They've lost 4 members now. The rest of Xavier trying to escape with their lives if they can. And I'll include jumping off the map as escaping with their lives, because technically not dying to the competition.
No, and with 4 minutes and 30 seconds left, they've only got a very small way to push this cart. This is a good situation for Xavier Esports to be in. 10-10 here just going to hide up in the in the alcove, trying to deny this so that Pattypan or THK can't get a good position.
Well, Ting finds himself a pretty fine position right there. Lands on top of Ting, 30 corner as well. Is not long for this word, which means Xavier don't have any more supports going for them. Now they don't have Queen either. Their front line is down. Their back line is down. All of them are not looking too happy about this scenario. Hong Kong Attitude, though, finally have dug their heels in on the C defense, and they still have quite some time to defend before it's all over.
Yeah, definitely not conservative play from these teams coming out. We see both of them willing to chase down kills, willing to go very far out of their regular defensive positions to do that.
THK does get his counterpart, but we responded onto Tay. So right now, THK has to find a few more to give that advantage back over to Xavier. The Earth Shatter from Queen did land as well, but not quite converting onto any kills, which is problematic because the team now with the Primal Rage is going to allow Hong Kong Attitude to buy some precious space. And with that space, Xavier have been pushed off the card entirely. With that space, Xavier have to back out and regroup with their team. Another minute off the clock.
Yeah, and if you look at the ultimates available on Xavier Esports, it feels like they're going to have a lot of trouble dealing with this next self-destruct from 10-10. Once he throws this in, it's probably going to split them in half.
See what kind of game plan Hong Kong Attitude want to go for. The damage boosted Dragon Blade, surely at the top of that list. A nice shield bash coming out from Pattypan will slow him down enough that he only gets 1 kill with it. 30 corner, they're standing still, just understands. Look, he's definitely gone down for the count. And Hong Kong Attitude, that's probably another fight win. In fact, that is definitely another fight win for Hong Kong Attitude. But so far, the tables have been turning quite quickly. We had a Xavier Esports squad who took under 4 minutes to cap through both A and B, and the B point was so quick that there wasn't too much resistance here, some minor resistance, but for Hong Kong Attitude, didn't even quite manage to get that final contestant before it capped out. Now that we're on C though, Hong Kong Attitude is starting to turn it around.
Yeah, and I think a lot of that, unfortunately, was on the back of their super sub coach, Moe there, who really just didn't get involved in the fights quite enough. We're going back now. I think it might have been Thidikon that had the DC there. Perhaps the reason for the pause, we did see him standing still, but either way, his team's going to go back to the spawn now. I'm not sure. It doesn't look like he's lost any ultimates. That's all good. 2.5 minutes left, and he's still got that Valkyrie ready to go.
It would be a vigilant thing for him to stand still if he knew he was going to die anyway. Reset yourself quicker. He had some questions about Mui, but just then we saw on the kill feed, Mui popped up quite a bit. For Hong Kong Attitude right now, Ting comes back in from the spawn. Mango Jai going to try and keep this team in action for the defense for as long as he can. Transcendence was already used. Valkyrie now, along with the self-destruct, can 10-10 find something. Gets Thidikon as he was trying to hide around the corner. THK needs to find a pretty good response. And you'll say that 3 kills, including 2 supports, is starting to look pretty good for Xavier Esports. Converting now into the mech of 10-10 as well. But they're losing a lot. They're losing enough members that Xavier will still be slowed down, but at least they have cart control and at least they're pushing.
Yeah, and they didn't really get a lot of cart movement during that whole fight. As a result, there's still going to be a full spawn defense coming out here from Hong Kong Attitude. They've still got plenty of time to get back and waste more of this 130 minutes left.
Do have a couple ultimates to play with as well. Primal Rage coming up from both sides now. Tay, we saw the sound barrier popped in, giving Xavier some space to work with the Shylin, smelling the sound barrier is gone. Now looking for the cleanup, finds two already. Hong Kong Attitude, despite Shylin going down, this is still even trains. Even trains right now favor the defender. So Xavier Esports need a lot more kills than what they're currently getting, especially if they're dropping supports like Tay. And currently, haven't found too many responses. Mango Giant going down is a good start for Paddy Pan. I say a start because they need to start getting a lot more kills. 10-10 loses the mech as well, but they themselves have dropped Queen, and Xavier Esports can still do this. They're starting to now get a pretty significant player advantage, and soon Hong Kong Attitude, you've got to think, might not be able to reinforce in time.
Yeah, it was both tanks just sitting on the cart getting the help from their healers, and it was Xavier Esports who managed to get the first couple of picks onto the healers to start swinging that battle in their favor. Now with the ultimates coming back out, we do see the coalescence from Mango Giant. It's going to try and go up against the Dragon Blade of THK once again. Getting a couple of kills with that Shylin going down, as well as Mango Giant.
THK is going to keep it even right now for Xavier Esports, keeping it so even. THK is going to go down himself, flies off the map. Ting finds himself another Primal Rage, does use it in time, doesn't quite go down. Is going to take down plenty of Xavier members. Recording this position right now with Xavier actually can't really afford to fall backwards. They don't have enough time to respawn and regroup.
10 seconds left here. This is going to be a really desperate attack here from Xavier Esports. I don't think they're going to have time for all of them to push back in. Can any get on the cart? Maybe one of these tanks here, but they're getting destroyed even before they can touch it.
Olivier just made it in time, but you're right, Queen and Tay destroyed. 2 members down, make it 4. Shylin sacrificing his own life is not going to do enough for Xavier Esports, not unless a huge string of kills come out. Queen will be your first respawner, but Queen is nowhere to be seen. The overtime ticks down. Hong Kong Attitude will complete that C-hole.
So I think that was definitely a strategical error there from Xavier Esports. At some point during that very protracted fight, they had to recognize that the spawn advantage was going to start swinging things in favor of Hong Kong Attitude, and they needed to pull back. Once you get to about 30, 40 seconds left, you know you're not going to win that spawn advantage unless something really big happens, right? And I think the smart play, maybe not the confident play, but the smart play is to pull back there and give yourselves one last proper push.
But that is also the passive play. That is also the defensive play. And for the attacking team, sometimes you need to take risks. And if they had camped out, we wouldn't be having this conversation. So for Xavier Esports, in hindsight, you could probably say pulling back would have been the correct thing to do. But while in the heat of the moment for Xavier Esports, they were still getting a decent number of kills. A possibility of them finishing was certainly on the cards, just not working out for them this time.
I mean, I'm not sure that Xavier Esports are in such a superior position that they can afford to back themselves in such a risky manner against a team of the caliber of Hong Kong Attitude. Either way, the strategy does not work out for them, and they are going to fall short of the final cap. Only 2 points for Xavier Esports.
The good thing for Xavier is, despite not finishing the map, they get enough distance, 67.61 meters, that it's very much at the end of the map. So it would take Hong Kong Attitude a full push, a full offense to even get that kind of distance. They don't have to finish King's Row, but where the cart ended, it might as well be the finish line.
Might as well be. Well, they won't get a second attack, AVRL. That's a pretty big difference.
It is for the purpose of time bank, but for the purpose of distance, it's close enough that for this one attack, it'll be worth something for Xavier, especially defending. Okay,
it looks like we are going to get the Doomfist coming out here on attack. Mui giving it his best shot, and they have scouted it out. Queen gets a nice fire strike onto them.
It is crouching Doomfist, hidden Mui for Hong Kong Attitude right now. Double shield tanks. Shylin's on a Winston as well. They're looking to jump in. They're looking to dive deep. And Mui yet to reveal himself. Finally comes in, but doesn't quite get the wall. Finishes off 30 corn anyway, but it required more ability usage out of him. He could have used the rising uppercut usually to save his own life, but not the case.
Yep, once you use that initial Doom Fist, you know, you really need those other 2 abilities to start getting around, and you've got to hit them, right? Because that gives you that extra 30 shields to keep yourself alive and going. Nonetheless, the rest of Hong Kong Attitude have still made something out of that meal.
Well, the thing is, Xavier Esports had 2 members pull back to deal with Mui. While that was happening, Hong Kong Attitude on the front lines were still doing a decent job. Mango Giant himself had a sleep bounce, so for Xavier Esports, they're starting to lose even these remaining members now with both tanks down. The THK may be nearly at a blade. THK could potentially come in, but I think he'd be smart to not do so.
No, absolutely not. They definitely want to get a better defensive position on the second point. They're not going to get the initial choke though, so that's a little bit of a problem. At this kind of juncture, sometimes you'd see the attacking team move up and try and just buy as much space in these streets.
That really hurts for CQB. He already popped the Valkyrie, which means he just loses that ultimate. That one's not coming back anytime soon. The nano boost onto Shailin, attempted to find some decent damage, but couldn't quite get a kill. Now Shailin, with this primal rage, is gonna essentially buy Hong Kong into some space to work with. They just apparently are looking for free car push, so 2 ultimates invested in there for a decent amount of push, but will it be enough for Hong Kong Attitude to actually find a fight when Earthshatter now coming down?
Yeah,
I mean, catching up.
The best they could hope for there is that it buys enough time for their teammates to get back in. Obviously, they did want to push past that choke, and it looks like it might have worked. Again, we're seeing one of these interesting strategies where you do see the 2 main tanks coming out, both the Winston and the Reinhardt.
What we are seeing is, well, both Zayas right now still have Graviton Surge for Hong Kong Attitude because they won the Earthshatter fight. And we're here, but can they win this one? It doesn't look likely. THK with Blade, combo with the Grand from Olivier will be enough for Hong Kong Attitude. No Transcendence because they're not running a Zenyatta.
Exactly.
No big defensive options there. They just got to take the brunt of that grab and the Blade and attempt to walk away, or in this case, not walk away at all.
Unless perhaps you have, Mango Jai hit you with a grenade and then CQB with a Valkyrie, it might be enough.
Probably not enough healing. I'd say it's not enough.
Probably not for a Dragon Blade, no. Either way, that's definitely a good combo coming out of Xavier Esports. And let's see if these snipers can continue to deal with the Winston jumping onto them while they're still having a Reinhardt matchup.
Well, here comes that Graviton Surge from 10-10 though, and Hong Kong have been waiting for usage for some time.
Deflected nade.
Mui, yep, we did see that nade go down as well, but for Xavier Esports, look, Transcendence from Tay coming in to block up the Graviton Surge means for Hong Kong Attitude, it just gets worse and worse, unfortunately for them.
Oh. CQB playing hide and seek here with Paddy Pan, and he's not going to be able to win that when he's tagged with the Venom Mine. Luckily, the projected barrier comes out just in the nick of time by 10-10. So we've got a couple of support ultimates up here for Hong Kong Attitude. That means they can really get up in the faces of Xavier Esports, and they're also going to have the nano boost. You can put that onto Shailin or a Ting. Lots of options here.
Probably Shailin at this rate because he does have the primal to work with after that nano runs out as well. Should be looking to see the response. THK, by the way, did also use that blade, and he's using it very effectively, far more effective than what this nano boost is doing for Hong Kong Attitude right now. So you could be Valked in the middle of that as well. Primal Ray still being used by Shailin. Likely what you'll see is that he wants to change heroes, because I don't really think that would have been a good usage otherwise.
No, and if you have a look across the board, I mean, they've just changed heroes, but they did blow 4 ultimates, I think, in that fight. A huge amount and a huge investment, considering that Xavier shut them down easily in that fight.
Well, the point is, if you're going to use those ultimates, you better use them before you change, and if they wanted to change, then that was the perfect time to use absolutely everything. The Hail Mary ultimate usage play. If they didn't use them, they'd be stuck in a spot where they'd be kind of wondering if they were going to get any value.
This isn't a particularly strong defensive position, but Xavier have been doing so well to keep them at this point.
They've been here for a long time now. We've been at least about 2 to 3 minutes, if not more, for Xavier Esports, at least for the first time here, being bled out of ultimates themselves. Hong Kong Attitude have had to start with full fresh ultimates. Mui already getting himself a blade, but needs an opportunity to use it. Apparently finds that opportunity right now, responded to from both the, rather just the Transcendence, but just the Transcendence should be enough, because Mui gets nothing out of that blade. And also his counterpart, or his teammate Ting, going down, gives Xavier the 6v4. Hong Kong Attitude not finding success.
Maybe Mui a little bit angry that he wasn't the favorite grandson, wasn't receiving the nano boost when the Anna was around, but now Mango Jai is on the Brigida and he can no longer help him sustain throughout that ultimate. They are going to go in now with these 2 healers. They've got Tidicon and Tay on the other side, and finally Hong Kong Attitudes have got a good start to the fight.
They got a better start than that. That's 2 picks right now and only 1 can come back. Smartly Riz's the Paddy Pan member who has got the ultimate. Dragon Strike still can get used here, comboed with that Graviton Surge from Olivier, and that should be enough. You'd think it should be enough to save Xavier on this defense right now, but Shailin has found a 2nd kill coming out from that Pulse Bomb. And with the resurrection onto Mango Jai, I don't think Xavier Esports are going to have enough members. Finally off the back of 2 sweet headshots, Mui opens up the fight. Hong Kong Attitude finally get the cap.
And it's very important to point out that they were right at the start of the fight. The teams hadn't engaged yet, okay? So there was There was no chaos going on from then. It's an easy call for Hong Kong Attitude to just go in and calmly take down the other 4, even managing to weather the storm through that Dragon Strike grab combo without the trance.
Now Hong Kong Attitude, because they managed to save up a couple of ultimates as well, winning off the back of some good picks off both their DPS players and some resilient play by their front line. Let's also consider that, I was going to say Xavier Esports still have ultimates playing with, but Paddy Pan down again is a bit of a nightmare. There's one response coming out now from both sides. Paddy Pan coming back into play should even things up quite nicely for Xavier. Rally says that Mango Giant and the rest of Hong Kong Attitude want to continue this push. They are looking for that victory. You can see the end in sight. They can smell it. They can taste it. For Xavier Esports,
Xavier's just staggering.
Moments away from potentially losing this. Earthshatter does connect though.
Yeah, but he doesn't get any kills on it because there's too many people around. The Brigade is stunning him. We do see a great Dragon Strike come through the back, and Paddy Pan picks up a couple of kills on the back of that, but Xiaolin is going to turn it around with a Pulse Bomb, but I think Xavier may have just got control of the cart here.
Just as we're approaching that final section as well, only a few meters down, 4 meters pretty much, I'd have to say at this point. About 5 actually, maths is a little bit off, but for Hong Kong Attitude. The other thing that's a bit off for them, unfortunately, is going to be the time factor. 35 seconds remaining says that they'll likely only have one last attempt. Yeah,
well, Xavier Esports, they want to round up their map score to 1 after this, and they're looking good to do it. They do have a Transcendence if they can stop. You know, there's no real offensive ultimates on the side of Hong Kong Attitude, and they're not going to have a Pulse Bomb that he'll need to use that for. So that's one more option that Tay doesn't have to worry about as he sits at the back here, just doling out the healing and the Discord Orbs.
Silver lining is Xiaolin going down means as the Tracer play, he can come back quite quickly. So Hong Kong Attitude have used that blessing now. They have used that extra buffer time, but now no more chances, no more room for error for this attacking squad. And Xavier Esports know that as well. The Transcendence allowing Queen to get in deep, finds Xiaolin again. Second time he's gone down the side of these fights. Mui though, great response, great double response even. Make it 2, make it 3. Mui and Hong Kong Attitude really want to make this fight count right now. Xavier Esports fully wiped down. That should be it. This should be the cap out. No respawning members. Maybe 30corn gets there, and maybe he's not good enough. Hong Kong Attitude, they will finish. They will collect a 2-0 in the series.
What a close map, though. And Tay, I think he just needed to hold onto that Transcendence for a little bit longer there at the end. He used it quite early, and you actually saw they weren't in the thick of it. They weren't in the midst of the other team, and that's where you really can get the maximum value out of that healing ultimate. He just really allows them to sit on the card a little bit longer, and that's not what you want.
You see there 4 kills in a row for Mui on the high perch, while his team was pushing around the corner, which makes it very difficult for any defenders on the Xavier side to go and address him. The cart was already a little bit too far forward at that stage, and with those 4 kills, he was uncontested. HKA was still brawling Xavier on the ground, and you'd think, with the Earthshatter coming down as well, with that early Transcendence that allowed them to get a second kill to Xiaolin, it could have been enough, but Mui turns things around. Look at that. Hong Kong Attitude going to continue their crusade in this series right now. And the stakes here we've got to remind people of is we are playing for 2nd and 3rd and potentially 1st if CHE cannot continue their own win streak. So if Hong Kong Attitude are potentially quite a big and important win if they can finish this.
So both teams looking good to go through to the playoffs at the moment. Okay, let's not count them out of that, but definitely the seeding is still up for grabs. And with 2 maps in the bag, HKA, now they've really stamped their authority on this series so far. Kings Row was great for Xavier Esports. It was a very, very close contest, and honestly, it seemed like there was only 1 or 2 fights in it. I mean, the fact that they held them for so long on point B, that's not usually where you stop people in the middle of the Streets phase.
And that's part of the issue right there, because we did see a difference in the Streets phase with for Xavier. They had quite a smooth Streets phase, and therefore Hong Kong Attitude, it was quite a bit slower. But what they did change up that allowed them to finish the map that was different to what Xavier had was Xavier got stopped up on C. They could not get past that iron wall, whereas Hong Kong Attitude definitely did get past Xavier. And now we'll see who comes out after the second half. Who is it going to be, Hong Kong Attitude or Xavier Esports? Only 2 maps remain here on Contenders Pacific. Find out after the break.